guess where I'm going is when do you hire? How do you hire? How do you train? Because you and Ben go off. You have a lot of experience. You're starting. Well, now you've hired 4. You're at 6. So how, every time you hire someone, it gets a little farther from who you are and the way you do things. So how do you hire? How do you find the right people? And then how do you train them so that you just don't kick them off the end of the pier?
It's extremely scary. It's I want to say it's a lot like being probably a 40-year-old person trying to date again. I feel like it's the same thing. It's like, what do I even do? How do I even start this? I've only done it once. No, I think it's a lot like finding the right clients. That, you said it's a 2-year endeavor for some of your builds. It's a relationship. When you're meeting that client, it's not just about checking off the boxes. I really feel like the right answer I have for you is finding the little things, the little idiosyncrasies. It's almost you're baiting a little bit in conversations in the beginning. You're trying to figure out what it is. Like I had an interview with a kid today. Benny loves him. We're probably gonna hire him. And he gets on the phone with me, and everyone's like, so I came out of college and I built this, $14 million build. And I'm like, so what was your role when you came out of college? Like everyone, you'd be foolish to think that I'm the owner of the company and wouldn't know that you were the only person there that built that project. Okay. Like the fact that you're taking credit for it, it raises a flag to me. Not be like, he goes, well, I was assistant super. So you were the 4th man down. You were taking photos every week for the time lapse, from the same spot. That was your job and coffee at the client meeting. So, it's knowing the experience, but also, trying to find that trigger. Yeah, I came at the person pretty aggressively. Like, what was your role? What did you do in that to build that project? You're taking credit for it, but what did you do physically? And wanting to, I wasn't so crass and calloused, I want to say. When I was younger, I used to always be like, oh, my clients will never screw me. They're always all great. And even some of the greatest ones, at some point they turn, and you never know when it happens. They're few and far between, thank God, knock on wood. But
they do, and it happens, and it's hard to manage those expectations perfectly, right?
Yeah, even if you did it right. I've told a lot of so going back to the educational part of people, when I was a director of operations at BGB and everywhere else, I had to hire people, and you had to teach them what's going on. And you had to understand, you had to forecast what was going to happen. Like it just happened the other day where I'm like, hey, we got the appliance delivered, and I'm letting John run his stuff. And that's one of our PMs, new PM, haven't gotten business cards yet. Not there, not solidified. Label's not there. But so we get all the appliances in, and I go, hey, you're going to need to get the stove and the fridge into the kitchen, like in place, like put it on the masonite, get it in place. Because it's going to be an excuse. It's going to be the plumber's going to walk in and go, he might have 14 other things to do, but he's going to see that the stove's not in and the fridge isn't in.
Yep.
And that's going to be their excuse.
Yep.
And it's like, so I say that, and then I'm like, I'm not going to like the micromanager of me would be like, all right, grab the movers, get everything moved in, cause it's in the garage. And then the next day I kind of scroll through and I'm like, so, where's the plumbers? And they're like, I don't know yet. So I reach out to the plumber. The text I get back is, hey, let me know when the stove and the fridge are going to go in, and we'll bring the guys back. And I'm just like, that was 2 days. Didn't we talk about the exact forecast that was going to happen? And then you didn't value it, and now we don't have people there. So I don't have a set for education wise. I don't have a set process. Nick, the other guy from the other host from the Modern Craftsman, he's all about writing down processes. And I've been the guy that's written processes for companies. And I think it gives you can correct me if I'm wrong, Brad, is a false sense of security. When you write all these processes down, and I get for behind the scenes, like bookkeeping and payroll and all these little, checking the boxes off, I get that. But on site, writing down processes for like pre-sheetrock, pre-board, it's really tough for just to put a checklist together and be like, oh, did you check it all off and sign the bottom? Yeah. Okay, great. And to think that that's going to stop you from, different things from happening. I just really, honestly, and that's probably why I don't have enough time in my day, is that we're 2 years in, approaching 3. is that I am there every day during those parts of the process that I know are going to be difficult, that are going to be big transition points. They're going to be parts where could make it or break it, or could be a huge detriment to quality. And so I don't hover, but I be a teammate that, hey, or I see it and go, hey, Ryan, come over here as well. Let's get 2 or 3 guys over here for this part of the phase. And, that way, when it's going to be crazy. So the key is to put enough slack on the leash that, it's like a dog that runs to you, and then it gets snagged up by the leash and they choke a little bit. It's like, it doesn't hurt the dog, but it also doesn't hurt, but they now know their limit. And it's to try and find that limit and try and put 10 to 12 things on their plate when they're only comfortable with 6, but make sure they have support for those other 6 things. So that way they know when they're done that they can do 10, no problem. And they've increased their flow and their management and their exposure and their ability to do what they didn't think they could. And it's finding the good things in people and showing them strength. And people always say, what's my growth in the company? Is it a label? Is it a truck? Is it a salary? No, it's how do you gain knowledge? And when we see people, it's like, you can go work for somebody else. I don't know them from a hole in the wall, but if you work for them and you work for us, you could work for them for 5 years and you would learn in 2 years everything with us. Because the exposure, the pace, the subs, the design, the critical thinking that you need, and the support you get from us, meaning Ben and myself and the rest of the team and architects, and being open where you don't like have to email the architect in this formal way, and just give them a buzz and be like, hey, what's the option for this? Or find another option, and think outside the box as if it's your own company. The hardest part we find is that if you softball it and you set everything up, then your employees just become robots in a way. They go through the motions. So when things do come up, they're calling you going, hey, so I found this conflict. Great. That's awesome. You shouldn't call me about a conflict. You should tell me about the solution that you're thinking about presenting, because I could find conflicts all day. We're not in the business of finding problems. We're in the business of finding solutions. And that's what makes our project smoother. So it's really tough to, I know you're probably gonna tell me you have a problem.
No, it's valuable. I mean, you're saying like chase experience, not money. Like that's one of the sales pitch for the people that work for you. And the one tough thing, I look at hiring just to build on that. I found experience is important, but it's not everything, right? I mean, company culture is really important. How do they get along internally? Because if we have internal conflicts, well, this business is tough enough to add internal conflicts with client conflicts and trade conflicts, and then just the market in general.
But clients can sniff that out.
They can. And
straight up, like if you have a problem internally, it doesn't take much for a client to sniff it out and go, so, hey, what's the issue there?
What's the deal?
Yeah. It's just as bad as them thinking that you're spread too thin between other projects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that's huge. I found that if they're good communicators, like I have found that, our superintendents and coordinators and PMs, I'll give them a lot of kudos and props here because they're very good communicators and they're good with people. They're good with clients. They're good with subs. And so I found that when our clients like them because they're likable and the trades like them, you still have to lay down the law, if you will, and be assertive, don't confuse my kindness with weakness, but I've found that bedside manner is really important because that solves a lot of issues already. But the biggest thing that I still try to figure out is, as you mentioned, Johnny, we have a leash that we give them to not hang themselves, but enough where they can get out and have, they have the ability to grow. They're not micromanaged. We empower them, right, to make their own decisions. And we have to balance that because notwithstanding the experience level, there's still mistakes that happen. They may miss a survey on the building height and the framers framed it too high. And now we have a structure that's too high and we have to rebuild that roof truss, right, and stick frame it now or whatever.
The fact,
right?
The catch that though, like having a checklist, would it catch it? It may have still met the, maybe, but it's tough. Like, how do you dial it in? To go back real quick, I feel like the personality has to be like a mom. Like my mom, she'd be screaming at me like I did something wrong, and then she'd answer the phone, hey, what's going on? It's like you have to have that, you're not so kind, but at the same time you're like, what's happening? So I think that's how I looked at it, where it's like you can have that switch, but you do have to drill down on whether it's a sub, even a client sometimes. Like some clients can, you get 2-3 touches a day with a client, and then they're like, so what's going on? It's like, bro, hey, we've had these talks. On Build a Trend, I've put it in emails, and we've talked 3 times this day. That's not how the structure was made out for percentages. It's like, to go back to your earlier question is, the best the best answer I had for the question of, percentage, like, hey, how much does it, can we, I can get so-and-so to do it for 10% for the build. One of the clients we had that's recent, and they go, hey, can we knock down that? They work through the whole line on a budget. And at the end they go, can we knock down your number on percentage? I'm like, absolutely. If we have clients that will pay full price. So I have no problem lowering the level of, was it not respect, but I screwed it up already, was, oh man, I was like, we don't need to show up here as often. We'll show up here 15% less because you want to break on the O&P. So it's like, if you don't value that, then we don't need to value the project as much. So it's like, and they were like, absolutely not. We want you here all the time. So it's like, all right, yeah. So
do you ever have clients say, that's fine, I'm trying to save $1, or do most of them, it really hits home once you give them that analogy?
It's hit home, but I also feel like that a certain value of client, they're going to test you regardless. That they want to know how it is that you value yourself, and it's not a numbers thing. It's more of a value that, do you value this company? Do you value this project? Or are you just gonna, it's like I've had, let's say a landscape designer present this amazing design, and then the client goes, well, can we change this up? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. It's like, well, are you going to stick firm to your design that you created, or are you just going to do whatever I say? So it's like, you have to, as the professional, be something that's going to stand up to it and have the right answers. That, even though I just screwed up that analogy, but it was like, no, I can't do that. Instead of saying no and being confronted, it's like, I love that book, Never Split the Difference, and it's all about having them say no, and anchoring stuff, and having that pause and going, yeah, I could change that, but do you want me to value this project less? They say no. There you go. You just answered it yourself. But if you say no, then you've created this kind of confrontation that's irrelevant in the conversation. Doesn't help either party. But it's the fact that, it's how you get there. And I couldn't do that for 12 years, 13, whatever, 14, 20 years. It took me this long to get to a point where I felt comfortable. It's like, I'd always be like, we'll mark up a project 16% because I want 14. I want to give them the win, and we'll do that. And now it's just like, no, now that I know my numbers, I know what my insurance, my workman's comp, we did a 401k, all these things that come into play. It's like, no, it's only squeezing me. So where do I get it from? That's the other answer, is like, okay, we want to knock this down. We can dilute quality. Is that what you want to do? No. Okay. Well, then there you go. Then we can't do that. There's the only way to find that is to either, when I was younger, I didn't know that, hey, we can just break. That's why my quotes are so detailed, because when you have a client, when you do like a lump sum or just put bulk numbers to stuff, when a client goes, hey, let's pull the basement out, and you'd be like, oh, well, it's so much work to rewrite it because it's not that detailed, and I've got fluff in there. I put 20% in that when I hit it here and all that stuff. So it's like, how do you do it right? And it's just being completely transparent and dialing in all these areas. So that way, if someone wants to phase the project because of budget, you're not forced to diminish your O&P or your management numbers. That's going to basically have an impact on quality, but you can pull a sleeve away and go, hey, I don't need to do the basement right now. We can access that 2 years from now when you're ready to go, and you haven't had to corrupt anything. So it's stuff like that really, it's really changed the game for me. And it's only come from experience.
Well, yeah. And I think that's part of the value, is people that want to jump out on their own. I mean, what you expressed, Johnny, is that there is a talent to understanding how to communicate on the business development side, right? Because as you mentioned, if a client says, Johnny, give me a discount, as you mentioned, you just say no, well, you're stonewalling them. I mean, it's just like, okay, well, it's not that it's not the right answer, but it's the delivery. And whereas if you were to say, okay, I'll discount the supervision or the quality, well, then it hits home. Okay, I value what Johnny offers, and I want to pay for that. I understand the value and investment I'm making in Johnny for what he's going to do and Vintage is going to do. And that's how you offset that, right? And I do love that book. That's a great book. So that knowledge and education and knowing your numbers, I think that's the biggest thing that we spoke about, just having a controller now, having full confidence, knowing my numbers. I know if I discount it, I can't keep my doors open. I can't stay in business.
But you'll take it from somewhere else.
Yeah. And
you have to keep the doors open.
Yeah. And if you want good people, like I found, to eliminate turnover, well, I want to create a company where the people that work here can have a good livelihood, support their families and own a home and have these things. Well, it comes at a price. I mean, it's not cheap, but they work hard. They believe in the vision. They believe in AFT. They believe in what we're doing. So I have to compensate them for that, but I also have to bill for that. And the clients have to understand how much emotion that my team's putting in, how much they value their home. And, how do I portray that, whether it be social media or communication on the business development, to make that a win-win for everybody?
100%. I also think that, you have to do it where, like, I like how you promote people on your Instagram. I think, and same with LinkedIn, like I said before, is that you can't be about Brad. You can't be about John, because if that's the case, then people could take shots at that and try and diminish that and take something away from you, whether it's your success or whatever it is. But when you make it about a team and a family, whoever it is, whether it's a client that's bickering about 10 grand, when they know the whole time, it's not just you, it's a team that's behind it. They know Emily, the bookkeeper, they know Paul, the super, they know all these different people that are involved. It's like, do you want to short them on the effort? One of the things that we've tried to do is make it about quality, experience in the details, and that we don't take deposits. We if we're doing a window order, obviously we do that. But in the beginning, you don't need to put a deposit of 30% down on us, because we only bill as we go. So every 2 weeks, it's cash flow is not the easiest, but it pushes us to honestly bill on a timely basis, because if we don't, we're going to get behind on it. And then we're the ones covering and financing the project. So, we want to really show it that, hey, you're getting something the whole time, meaning whether it's the first drop of that stuff that week, we bill for, dumpster, porta-john, all that stuff, because it's there. You can see it. It's tangible. It makes the relationship, it solidifies that relationship about that you're driven on something that's actual tangible. Not just like, oh, well, I'm 20% and that holds my calendar date for the next year. And I get all that. I love all that. But until that I am financially stable with the numbers and how we work them all, I want to make sure that that's not my account, and I don't have to worry about 5 different accounts, because my focus has been on production. So now that Benny's going to move into that role with our bookkeeper, can put a better eye on that, and then they can talk to each PM about when they're invoicing and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm not going to say in a year from now we won't be doing that, because we have it more dialed in. But that's one of the things that we didn't do, because it forced us to invoice on time, because we knew there wasn't a cushion.